since we last spoke, there have been no real signs that state revenues are going to do anything except where they're trending right now, and that is a down arrow. So you've actually put a budget freeze in effect, setting aside $160 million under the agencies that you have control of. First of all, is that order being promptly addressed by all the departments and agencies?
All the departments and agencies under the control of the governor, yes. We've also asked the other agencies that are not under control of the governor to implement the same thing. This goes back to when we were debating the budget back in May and June, and there were indications that revenues were coming in a little bit better than expected. People would use the term surplus, and I always corrected them. There can't be a surplus when there's a $4.2 billion deficit. But it was around $700 million, and I refused to spend all of that at the same time. And unfortunately, I think I'm being proven correct because the revenues in the second half of the calendar year last year have declined. And although we are still getting more revenues than we did at the same time last year, they're not going to match the expenses from natural inflation of various aspects. So we have another difficult budget year ahead of us.
And those other agencies you mentioned that aren't under your control, that added up to about another $60+ million, I think. Have there been any takers
those are
on
agencies.
that,
the legislature is helping out a little bit. Judiciary.
So there is cooperation happening there?
We'll see.
We'll see.
And when we talk about a budget freeze, Governor, obviously there's some hint in there that it could at one point be unfrozen if things take a turn for the better. But are we at a better chance of seeing that happen or of seeing maybe more steps taken to tighten the belt this fiscal year?
Or just staying where we are is a third option.
Yeah.
And I hope that at the worst it's staying where we are. At the best, maybe we can unfreeze it. But, unless we see revenues start to increase and increase significantly each month, we're not going to be in that position.
Does that make it difficult to give your budget address in February, knowing there's still 5 more months of revenues to be coming in?
Well, it's interesting because when you make these addresses, they're based upon revenue projections. And revenue projections, there's, the way people look at it, and you have the economists come in, we hire outside economists. There are conservative, there's moderate, and there's liberal projections. There are variations of that. And last year we used the conservative side, but somewhat moderate edge of the conservative side. We should have used the conservative side. Others in the General Assembly would have had us use the moderate side, complete moderate side, or even liberal side, and we didn't. But these are all projections. You can't tell what's going to happen, for instance, in the Mideast, that is going to affect the markets and affect the economy and how businesses invest or don't invest, and what happens with job performance. You can't tell what's going to happen in Europe. As we all know, we're watching Europe very closely. Well, that has a direct impact upon the United States and upon the individual states, including Pennsylvania, that we have absolutely no control over.
And it's been a little bit, I don't know if this is the right word or not, but a little bit of a schizophrenic year. It started out pretty good with revenues looking pretty decent for a few months, and then again, down we go. Are we?
And as you know, the market went into a little bit of a funk there, and as soon as it went into a funk, everybody started getting cautious, holding back spending. We didn't go into a deep dive, but we didn't grow as everybody had hoped that we would grow.
When we talked about this last month, you said your outlook for the next 6 months, very wary.
Very
we need to be very cautious.
Hopefully, next fiscal year, if we get through this one, you might see some moderate growth out there. We're certainly working at it, but. It's not just us here in Pennsylvania. It's all the states. It's Washington's looking at all of this. We have to control our spending. And we've gone through periods of time in the last 25 years where we had lots of money and we spent it all. We put some of that money in rainy day funds. Well, unfortunately, we've spent all that. So those kind of monies that you can go find are gone. And we're dealing with the reality. People elected me to bring fiscal discipline to Harrisburg. That isn't always the easiest thing, I can tell you. It's not the most popular thing, but it's necessary if we're going to get through this period of time.